like no matter what you do or say, it's not gonna land or they're not gonna hear it.
There's no reasoning with the drunk. I think they're having cognitive, logical conversations, but what's driving that is
Yeah.
their emotional immaturity. Yes, sir. Thank you for joining another edition of The Selfish Show. And I have Seth Lott with me today. Thanks for being on
Yeah,
the show.
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Just if no one's ever heard any of the previous shows, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and why we're chatting.
But yeah, so I'm a family missions pastor at Hope Community Church here in Reno, Nevada.
Let's go.
Yeah, I had classes with Lem in college and we kept in touch and here we are.
So, like I was saying earlier, Seth and I have had a couple conversations. We recorded a couple of episodes, which get, for whatever reason, a lot of views, man, because, people love what you have to say. And we wanted to record today because you watch a previous episode that I put up. And I'd love for you to just tell me about the episode and what your reactions were to it.
Yeah, so talking about emotional maturity and so just experience with being in ministry is you meet a lot of people and you have interactions with people who you may not have had interactions with in the real world and just seeing like their version of success. So maybe that's probably most likely it's money. In America we view success as I have all this money or that's why I'm successful, but their emotional side is just stuck somewhere. And just watched your video and it just made a lot of sense to me, and then it really connected with me.
Yeah, bro. Like I created it. I created it because like I see it. I see it too. But then I also wanted to just record that like you can look at a person and see that they're a full grown adult, but just because they've grown chronologically doesn't necessarily mean that they've grown emotionally. And then another thing that I find when I'm looking online and or social media, that kind of thing, and I look at like the things that Christians post, you know what I mean? And they think they post things that they think are logical and cerebral, right? They're like, oh, these are my arguments for why you're wrong and I'm right. But what drives that isn't a logical thing. What drives it is emotional, right? And because they don't have the emotional maturity or or the emotional like resilience to like sit, they have to react to it, right? And so they react to it because they don't have the emotional resilience and emotion maturity to like not react to it. And then they want to come across as like, look at these logical, like, look at these arguments that I'm making. And they're trying to make it a logical cognitive thing, but it's not. It starts emotional. And there's a lot of people that think they're having cognitive, logical conversations, but what's driving that is their emotional immaturity, like that video said. And again, we're not picking on Christians because this is everybody. You know what I mean? Like we all have like
Right.
we just happen to be using like that example because you work at a church and because you brought up Christians, I like made mention of like Christian people posting stuff on social media. So this is not about ripping on Christians or anything like that. I think more than anything, it's about just just when you see again, just when you see an adult and if they can't hear you, like because they don't there isn't enough emotional maturity there. Like part of the reason why I wrote the thing and recorded it is because of like for me, like do I have like I know my areas where I'm emotionally immature and I just react, right? And I'm working on those kinds of things. So the main reason why I put that video up and I'll put the video in the show notes, so that people can watch that video. But part of the reason why I made that video is because like, hey, what ways am I immature emotionally? And what ways do I react? And that was part of the reason why I created that is because for me, like I know where I react and I know where I am in need of some emotional maturity myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I've realized as a leader, like you can't react. Like you have to sit and think. You have to contemplate, and I don't. And sometimes I do just react, and like, and I'm in that video just brought it up of like, oh my gosh, like I have these things that I need to work on,
Yeah.
um, and be aware of at least.
Yeah, if I was doing a follow-up video, like, and maybe I will do a follow-up video because for whatever reason, people connected with that. Like one of the things that I would address is when you're interacting with somebody that's is emotionally immature, that just can't hear your argument or can't hear what you have to say. Like one of the things that we can do when we're interacting with somebody like that is just stop talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like you've been in those conversations where like you're making an argument and they make a counter argument, and then you guys are just like just it's just ramping up and it's just getting louder and louder and more intense. Like one of the things that you can do when you're talking to somebody that just can't hear you is to just stop talking. You know what I mean? That way, like it doesn't like escalate and it doesn't like, you know, because they can't hear you for whatever reason. They either because they don't have the emotional maturity or you're not articulating it well enough. Like whatever the reason might be, sometimes you just need to stop. Like, have you been in situations where you're having those conversations and it just gets heated and like,
But yeah, and I'll just stop. I'll just be sit there and like wait till they're done.
there's no reasoning with the drunk, right? Because you're drunk. Like
Right.
they can't hear you. They can't process what you're saying. They can't process their thoughts. And so like, that's kind of like that's kind of the thing that runs in the background for me. I'm like, man, you just can't reason with the drunk. And like sometimes these conversations get that way where like we can't reason with them. So what do you do then? Well, you stop the conversation or I mean, you're in the position of authority and leadership, this particular role. So like what can you do when someone just doesn't when they just can't handle what it is, how you're leading?
Right. Yeah, I think for me at least, will bring it with the staff and just be like, "Hey, this is what's happening," because they usually have a better understanding, like an the outside perspective. And then I'll either bring in someone that's really level-headed and just talked it out, like, "Hey, like, we need to talk this out." And so I feel like it's really hard with text and email, especially like figuring out tone, and so you could say one thing in a text or an email, and then it just comes
Yeah.
across as rude or I don't know, like like they're just reading into it, and so or vice versa. I might read into something that they're doing, and so like, but like when you're talking face to face, that's gone. Yeah, that's eliminated. Right.
Situation. I mean, I can't
I
see you
think
doing that.
no, I think that's a gift. I think maybe that's from genetically from Native Americans. I don't know, but in tense situations, like I'll just shut up, and so like, um, and I don't know if that's just who I am, or but I have gotten mad and then like having to respond. I'll wait a day or two if I'm really mad and like, or they said something mean or whatever, like we're human beings. We have to connect. We have to work together. We have to try and bridge those gaps. And so for me, like I have to wait a bit and then like, luckily I have a filter, and I'll talk about it with my wife. I'll wait. I'll be like, I'm not going to respond. I need to talk to my wife because, like, I'll think of a response and I think it's graceful. I think it's, the best response. And then I'll tell her, and she's like, that's really dumb. And so I have to be like, oh, so, but like, we're thinking that. I'm thinking, like, oh, wow, that was such a great text I sent or whatever. And it's not, and so it's given that time, like if you can create time, then you can find out a better response. Because I felt like I knew that that happens, but I don't know. Maybe we think in the church it's not there, but or we hope
People are
that it's not
people.
there. But yes, but I'm a person, and so just connecting those dots was really helpful to see. Like, oh my gosh, like how do I deal with that, or how do I disciple better, or how do I help those conversations along, or like when there's any kind of conflict with that now, like I'll just be like, let's meet in person, like let's stop talking over phone call, text, or email. Like, we need to meet in
Yeah, man.
person.
Just
Yeah. And then we can say, like, hey, we're having this conversation, it's going to be hard, but like, we need to have it, because we do push for keeping the peace.
yeah,
Keeping the peace is like, that's not really American or it's not our culture, right? Like,
yeah.
no way.
We wanna
But
fight.
yes, but keeping the peace is like, okay, well, we have to work together. And in order to work together, we have to find somewhere where we agree on, and so trying to take it off you versus me and putting it on like
Yeah,
we're just trying to understand each other,
yeah,
yes, I use I usually say like we have to have a hard conversation and it's going to be uncomfortable. This is something I believe that will help us heal and move forward because this is where I want to see things.
yeah, yeah,
So it's creating that vision of like we're not against each other.
yeah,
We're supposed to be on the same goal. So how do we get there?
yeah,
Whatever that conversation looks like,
yeah,
it sucks. It sucks,
yeah.
man. It's horrible, having those conversations and
It's helpful when you're able to communicate your expectations and when you're able to communicate the outcome. Like, this is where this conversation is going to go, and it'll be hard, but let's have this conversation. Especially, if you're the leader, you know what I mean? Like, you're trying to lead these
yeah.
folks.
Oh yeah. It's hard to say it, but like you have to say it. And for me, it's more of a like I'm gentle, but I'm firm. And so it's saying like, okay, I'll always forgive you, or everyone deserves a second chance, but like this is where things need to be, and like let's get you there. I always want to give them the opportunity to show, and I would hope they would do that for me too.
What other suggestions do you have for people having tough conversations, and anything else come to mind? Anything else that you do?
Yeah, I do feel like if I'm listening, you're really listening. You're not waiting to respond, but also on top of that is like sometimes people can talk for a while and get off topic, and so you can say like, "Hey, I see that's important to you. Maybe we can talk about that later, but let's stick to this,"
Hmm.
um, and just be like, "I want to honor your time as well as I want to honor my time as well,"
Yeah,
and then because sometimes you talk with people who are long talkers and just want to explain and go all the way around, and it's like, no, let's just stick to this, But sometimes you do need to have them talk all the way around to get to it.
hmm,
So
hmm.
I think it's just really knowing your people and knowing the people is you have to talk with them.
Man, you are, dude. You're in leadership, man. This is what leaders do, and like and you got to model this. You got to model this for the folks that you lead.
Yeah. I think having those hard conversations and maybe even wait a bit, like say, hey, do you have time next month to, like let things kind of simmer down and cool off and then have that conversation. Let's go back to it, and then um, not necessarily show them like why they're wrong or why you think you're right, but just I think what they're fighting for is just understanding. If like you just see it my way, and then you can hear them out, have them see it their way, and then connect the dots for them of how things are supposed to be.
Yeah,
Because you can follow their logic when they're explaining, and then you're like, oh, that's where you're coming from. Okay, well then let me meet you there
yeah,
and say like, okay, and that's huge, making those tough decisions is it's hard and like especially like explaining those decisions, to that affect people and they're just not liking it. And um yeah, you do have to have that shield. I mean, you're a human being that like you feel it. Like
yeah,
you maybe for that afternoon you have to learn how to filter it, like you can
yeah,
feel the feelings, but then and be like, "Oh, but I'm the boss, like I have to make decisions and I not everyone's gonna like me." And I think that's more leaders that we need is like, okay, like you can't care about what people like. You have a job to do, and it took years, and I still feel like I have that side of me of people pleasing. But when it comes to decisions now, because if you people please, and you make a decision based off of that, like those repercussions are, I feel like, worse than what
Mhm.
you wanted or what was healthy. And so for me, that's what helped me get over it is like, oh, well, I need to do what's best.
Yeah.
And so, and if people get mad at me, then whatever. Hopefully in the long run, they're gonna see like, oh, that was a good decision.
And healthy is not healthy, sadly, is not the norm. Like, people don't like healthy. People don't like boundaries. People don't like strong leadership. Like, people just want what they want. And when they see somebody act healthy, or respond in a healthy way that they don't like, if they're not healthy, they're gonna react and the claws are out. But if they're healthy, you can have that's the thing. If they're healthy, you can have a conversation with them and just talk through it. But sadly, there's a lot of folks that we interact with that they don't even know they're emotionally like immature and they don't even know that like they're acting out of their emotions because they think they're doing it logically and cognitively. So, man, I'm
Right.
glad you're learning these lessons.
Yeah. It's hard, but like you grow and then everyone else grows. And that's what's great is like you grow in that and like you just have to take it on the chin a few times and like but then see like the fruit of that, decision or something that you stood up for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you sharing your journey of your self growing and
Right.
developing. No, it's been fun. It's been fun to
Yeah.
watch. And just that when you responded, when you sent me that initial text, I was like, oh man, yeah, that's tough to like have to have those conversations with people that like aren't thinking straight. You know what I mean? Like and you just have to be the bigger person. You just have to be like the wiser person. And sometimes you just have to take it. And so you've done well, man. We'll continue to grow and challenge.
Yes. Thank you.
Here's what I want you to sit with. Emotional maturity isn't a personality trait, it's something you build. And the people in your life who can't hear you right now, they're not bad. They're just not there yet. And your job isn't to fix them. Your job is to keep growing yourself. If this conversation was useful, please share it with someone who needs it. And once again, this is Lem. This is the Selfish Show. Thanks for checking it out. And as always, don't forget, be unique, but belong.